Yeah.
We're actually on time. We've met. Oh, are we on time?
You what?
Oh, are we on time?
No.
Oh no. Okay. All right.
12 minutes.
I did a silly thing. When I scheduled this program. I've done it a couple of times in the past. Sometimes you've got to be a little bit slow and work out the difference between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. So I get a message from Simon saying, we're live in about 5 minutes. And I said, no, we're not. And he said, well, I think you better have a look at the time because... I went, oh shit, I set it for 6 a.m., not 6 p.m. New Zealand time. So someone's very, very onto it.
Okay, my thing is like, you'll be live in 30 minutes. I'm like, well, not according to me, we're not. You could surprise me. That would be fine. I've been ready at was it 5 p.m. yesterday? I'd have been on it, but
I had to laugh. Thank you for that. So I quickly jumped in on the program and changed the time. But as usual, guys, it's my deepest pleasure to say hi. If anyone is watching, we've got Blues, Guitar, and Harmonica. Thank you. You're a new guy.
Yes.
So I'm Andrew from New Zealand, and Simon is our co-host from the UK. And on the bottom there, we've got Brad Cook all the way from Melbourne, Australia, down under. Actually, him and I should actually both be on the bottom, and Simon should be on the top.
Clearly, I should be on the top.
Oh my gosh!
I don't think so.
and Basically, you should see kangaroos and koalas going past me in the background.
Oh dear. So, have we had a good week, guys? How we been?
Busy.
Yeah, busy.
Epic weekend for Andrew and I have been talking about guitar playing.
Yes, I know. Bloody weekend. Going on about guitars all weekend. There you are. That's the tagline, isn't it? Going on about guitars all weekend. Well, at least I've finished work for 2 weeks, so I've got 2 weeks off. Good morning, Ellen.
Fantastic.
Thank you for joining.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've got time off, but I'm working all the way through. So Hilton hours, but working. So. I'm grateful to have to work. Let's just say
that. Yeah, good. That's fantastic. Hey, Blues, Guitar, and Harmonica, tell us where you're from. You're new in the chat. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. We'd appreciate it. We're trying to build our channel. And if you haven't checked out Brad's channel, I'll fire his details across the screen for you to check out Brad. There he is there. That's Brad's channel. He'd appreciate a follow on social media and check out his music.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. Blues Harmonica says, Brad, pass that hip flask or pour me a beer from your Marshall head.
Oh, okay. We know who that is.
Do we like Sherlock Holmes to work out who that is?
Oh, I know.
Warren.
Yeah, he's just gave it away, hasn't he?
Yeah. Sneak up on us. Maybe 5 a.m. here, Warren, but I'm on it, Sherlock Holmes like. I'm all about it.
And here's me thinking that, sorry guys, forgot to mention this is Warren H. It's all right, we worked it out.
You never did forget Warren. We know. You're trying to sneak up on us.
Never really needed to know because we work it out.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of funny little carry-ons, apparently Susie Cherry, who used to be in our chat, isn't Susie Cherry. Was some
well, that's not a surprise, is it? Let's be fair.
was some guy, and I think maybe I should say this off here. I won't say this on air. I'll talk to you. I'll mention this to you guys off here because, I've got to get my facts right, and it could cause problems. So no, I'll talk to you guys off here.
Well,
Sorry about that.
She never did anything in our chat to warrant anything.
No,
she's fine.
No,
I've never seen her in any other chat do anything bad.
That's why I need to be careful about what I say, because it's only through other people. So, yeah, and we're not gossipers here.
And let's be fair. Let's be fair. The one thing you can say about 90% of people on the internet is that's not their real name, isn't it?
Yeah.
In fact, anywhere, frankly. But the one thing we can say about Gary Moore is that's his real name. Look at that for a segue. Look at that. I should be in media.
Okay, well that's a very professional YouTube name, Blues Guitar and Harmonica. So we're happy to push your channel, my friend. So if that's something that you want to do with your channel, grow your channel, just acknowledge that in the chat, Warren, and I'll do a banner and we'll throw that up because every little bit helps.
This week's show brought to you by Yeti mugs.
Read this comment from Warren.
I knew a person who was there for about 4 years. One day he actually turned on his camera, and we also, well, there we are. You see, I don't care, but it's I don't mind what I don't mind. You can call yourself what you like at the weekends. It's all good. It's, as long as you don't cause any trouble, I'm good with it.
Yeah. So I'm excited. Actually, I'm always excited because most of the records that we talk about are pretty darn good. So the person that's presenting this week's record is this guy down there. So
again, have you not presented all of them this week, Brad? Have you done them all?
Like I said, Andrew's been working me real hard this weekend.
Actually, you've done two. Matt did El Macombo.
Yep, that's right.
Live at the El Macombo.
Still, he's trying to get blood from a stone. I tell you, geez, I ain't got much to give, but he gets a lot out of me. I tell you.
It's funny.
Okay, so this is good. So,
isn't it? See, if you say alive at the El Macombo to me, right, it doesn't mean Stevie Ray Vaughan. It means Elvis Costello.
Yeah,
I've got an Elvis Costello record called Live at the El Macombo. Quite a well-known sort of bootleg. It's just weird, but good show, guys. I've enjoyed both of them.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Really good.
Matt really enjoyed that.
Okay, so what we're going to do is, guys, we're going to push Warren. So that's good. So I'll do up a thing for him. And look at this. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. There you are. See? Surprise, surprise.
All right. Do you want to... Actually, before Brad kicks off, I'm actually presenting next week's records, guys. So don't think that I'm a skiver. Okay, so I'm on next Sunday. No. I'm not telling you guys what the record is until the end of the show. Simon's on with me, and if you guys play your cards right, you might get Carl and you might get Brad. So if you guys behave.
The slight return. Yes. John Smith, slight return next week.
Yeah. Get him out of his holiday mode.
You're gonna get Carl to give us real estate tips.
No.
Carl's real estate tips.
No.
Come on, you know you want to.
And he's probably watching and lurking, and he's thinking, why are you saying no to me, Andrew? Look, no, he's very successful, but No, this is purely guitar stuff only. Come on.
Yeah, quite
We don't
right.
want to get, yeah.
I just thought it sounded funny. Rialto tips with Carl.
Well, maybe
Okay.
they can take us on a cooking trip, show us how to cook up and stuff.
Well, hold on, because I'm gonna call it cow cam. so when he, see my name. If you have a look, so on the bottom there, obviously it says Brad somewhere on your name. If I hold on,
I was going to say it doesn't. Oh, that's better. It does show them.
Okay. So it says Simon, Brad Cook, and Andrew. So on Carl's, we're going to have Carl Cam because he'll take us for a journey into the kitchen, into the pantry.
Yeah.
Getting a beer from the fridge.
Here's the hallway. Here's the city.
Petting the cat.
Yeah.
Petting the cat.
Unwrapping things really loudly.
Eating.
You just send in the rules, don't you? No eating, no cooking up a stopwatch on the show.
No going to while you're online.
Yeah. Yes, quite right.
Look,
none of that.
Carl's a guy that you don't say this is what you do to. He's not
really.
He's not.
Really?
Yeah. He's one of those guys. He just you don't say you should do this or you should stop doing that. You just
yeah. You have to take him as was it the old expression? You could dress him up, but you can't take him out. It wouldn't be Carl if he didn't do it, would it? Let's be, Warts. That's who he is.
He does what he does.
Yeah.
Very good. Very well. He's very well.
Oh yes, that's fine as long as he's good. But if he expects us not to take the mickey out of him, that's a different matter.
Well, we also
nice comment.
Oh, dear.
Well, thank you so much for that.
A full double album. No pressure then, Brad.
That's a lot of pressure on the recording all myself, but yeah, okay. I'll have to hit the hit class.
Is it like you? Is it what? Did you play everything on it? Right? Did you play? You didn't play everything on it, did you? So you like McCartney 3, 2 and 1.
Yeah.
Played everything. Look at that.
Might as well do it all yourself. If you can't do it all yourself. Can't you know what else to do it? Do it yourself.
Hey Ken, thanks for joining us.
Thanks,
Morning, Ken.
Thanks for the.
All right, bro. I'm going to get you to kick off.
Yes, we'll get into this because I've been waiting anxiously to get onto this one. I've been waiting a few weeks to actually get to mention this album with you guys because it's a very important one for me as a musician, as a guitar player, and I'm sure everyone in the chat probably agrees this is probably one of the finest blues records to ever hit the waves. So Gary Moore, Still Got the Blues. This is probably easiest the best-selling album for Gary Moore. I think it was certified gold in America. Features George Harrison, as well as Albert King and Albert Collins. Produced by Gary Moore himself with Ian Taylor. This is the first time Gary Moore, who was a veteran of 20 years in the business at the time, dropped his hard rock sound for more blues-orientated music, which was obviously where his heart and soul was. He still successfully managed to appeal to his existing audience, but it opened him up to a completely new fan base of blues fanatics like us, and obviously the well-deserved era of success to the 90s and onwards. I will note that I always liked Gary Moore prior to this record, but this really drew my attention to him more so than ever, this album. The record was a combination of new songs from Moore, such as Moving On and King of the Blues, and remakes of songs of players that he admired, such as Otis Rush's All Your Love, Walking by Myself, and a contribution also made by Harrison, that Harrison wrote for Clapton, of all things, called That Kind of Woman. And Harrison also sung on the song and played guitar, also slide guitar as well. There's a version of Fleetwood Mac's song "Stop Messing Around" on it as well, and obviously that's a preview for another record that Gary did later on, which is Blues for Green, like a tribute album for Peter Green. Still Got the Blues, peaked at number 13 in the UK, remained steady seller. It's certified platinum in September '94, which is like 4 years after, and 4.5 years after its release. It also went platinum in Australia, Germany, and other countries, and eventually climbed to worldwide sales of over 3 million copies, which is phenomenal for a blues record, especially at that time in the 90s. I'll quote Gary Moore here. This was an interview he had with him with Q magazine in about '92. He said, "I wasn't trying to emulate that sticky produced clean American guitar sound. I wanted something more rough and ready, and I think I succeeded. It was just like starting over, the best thing I could have ever done." So I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on what I've spoken about there, but you guys got anything to add to that?
Got a couple of things. I found an article from Guitarist magazine where he talks about on the After the War tour in '89, and he said he felt like he wasn't being himself anymore, like he's going through the motions. And when he was in the dressing room before the show, he was just playing old blues things. But obviously, when he went out on stage, he was doing the sort of the rock, the metal thing, and he just didn't feel like it was him. And he credits Bob Daisley, with the idea of making a blues album instead of and going back to what he thought. And I think the other person was he heard Jeff Healey's "See the Light" album, and that was a real trigger for him to go back and do a blues album, which is obviously clearly where his heart, as you just said, where his heart was, and not where his not where he'd been going for the last few years, late '80s. And I think he was disillusioned with that kind of that metal sound. Didn't really want to do it anymore. Didn't feel like it was him. Didn't feel like exactly what he wanted to do. That wasn't the sound he wanted to pursue. And he didn't. He was a bit disparaging about. Not disparaging, but he just said that was it Holdsworth and people, Alan Holdsworth and stuff like that. He just said, I just didn't want to do that. Just didn't want to do it.
I think he had a discussion with Thin Lizzy guitarist Eric Bell after listening to some of his own albums, and he said that they were the biggest load he heard listening to his own stuff. And he, obviously, in his own words, he lost musical respect for himself. So obviously, addressing an album like "Still Got the Blues" was just like starting over. He said. So.
Yeah, and I think it also, in some kind of weird way, I can't find any connections. I've tried to find it, but I think it probably gave guys like Clapton, even though he came out with From the Cradle 5 years after, and he credits the fact that it was the success of the Unplugged album that we did, last week, guys. But I kind of think the success of that album would have been in the back mind of Clapton and his management, and there was certainly a market for electric blues. I'm sure there would have been that factor. So it's a groundbreaking album.
Part of the thing.
Like he was 38 when this album was released too, so he'd already had a 20-odd year career as a hard rock and even a slightly metal guitar player. He was. I think Ozzy Osbourne tried to get him for a while there. Whitesnake tried to get him. David Coverdale tried to get him to join Whitesnake. So there was a lot of things going on, but obviously the solo career and the blues was impacted, and that's where he went. And I think that's the best decision he ever made, really. I will mention this, that he passed away sadly at 58 years of age, which is, I still think we could have seen another 20 more
4 years younger than me.
That's way too young to pass away. But we won't touch on that too much. But obviously, died of a heart attack at 58, which was. I remember when he died, and I was devastated. I was devastated because the record in particular was a really big moment for me. I mean, I sat and I played along to these tracks. couldn't play them note for note, but I was sitting there getting my chops up. I mean, I started playing guitar around 1990, 91 when this album came out, and a couple of years later, I was just sitting there just playing constantly. So, thank you, Gary, for the music. And the inspiration of the guitar player, even though they weren't some of these songs that he did on this weren't his, but he made them his own as well. So.
Yeah. I just found the quote. What he said about on this whole thing was, what we have today is a set of very generic guitarists who've been through this process known as the Guitar Institute of Technology, and I'm not a big fan of those. I think this sort of conveyor belt production line of guitarists really haven't got a lot to say for themselves. And he said, I've got this nightmare of sitting at the Rainbow in LA with Tony McAlpine on one side and Vinnie Moore on the other side, and listening to their ideas on how a guitar should be played. I hate the records those guys make. So,
well, you know,
clearly didn't want to go in that direction, did he?
You know, I know we're talking about the 1990 album, but you know, just briefly, if people haven't already checked it out or seen it, you know, he's in that wonderful DVD, the Strut Pack, and then he's got he's got an album Blues for Jimmy, and then Blues for Greenie. So you know, blues is running deep in his deep in his veins.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a young guy, you know, we used to rock out to out on the fields. You know that you've got them. That one that he was doing with Phil Lynott. You know, yeah, mate, you're a nut. Good boy. That's the way. And yeah, grab those DVDs.
These I've got a ton more on the hard drive, by the way. These are
you got them all. That Strut Pack one's awesome, isn't it?
Yes, I've got that. That's a really good one. They're all great. I shouldn't. That's a really good. That one's amazing.
Blues for Jimmy, yeah.
And I've got live blues. I've got a few others on hard drive that I used to have on video, and I transferred them across to digital just so that I would never lose them, because I can't get them on DVD. But there was one gig, I think I shared it with you, Andrew, online.
Oh yeah.
I've got it on a videotape, and so I'm glad it's on YouTube as well. But that was an amazing show, probably his best show of the blues. Amazing.
Yeah. One other thing I've discovered as well, actually, that apparently in '89 he played something. He played something called the Jam '89. I'm not quite sure what that is, but playing classic blues covers with the likes of Jerry Donahue and Andy Fairweather Lowe. And clearly we talked Andy Fairweather Lowe, you know, the backbone of Eric Clapton's Unplugged band a couple of years later. So you can see, what you were talking about earlier, that the intermeshing, of Clapton and feeling in the zeitgeist of, there's an opportunity here to reintroduce electric blues and acoustic blues, but blues in general, back into your for that to be successful.
Always loved the cover. Always loved the
black and white in the car.
As a man in his hotel room. So hang on. Let me get that right.
Make yourself at home.
He's got the blues breaker amp. The Les Paul there. Same Les Paul in the both pictures. I don't know. I can't get this to sync up. There you go.
Go right up and then come back a bit, Brad. Go right up to the camera. Bit more. And then just drop back a little bit. Yeah, that's all right. That's okay. We can see. Yeah.
Outstanding. That's you, Brad.
Oh,
That's you, Brad. From being a boy from 1990, and there's Brad now. Eh? That might as well be you.
Yeah.
If I could play half as good as Gary Moore, mate, I'd be very happy. What a player.
Okay, so well, for me, the album was phenomenal when it came out. I was just thinking, guys, when I was preparing my notes for this, that 1990, 91, 92, 93, 94 period was pretty good. We had some good music going on then. We've done a lot of reviews, guys, of albums from around that period, already. And as we continue this series, I think we'll be surprised actually how many albums, good music, that this show follows. Can link back to that period, but that album was huge. And we'll get into the songs specifically. There were a couple of songs which just were off the charts. It was radio friendly, and it was good, sophisticated music, and it still had that rock edge. Not very many guys have that gift of playing blues, but still, got that rock
with the rock edge. Yeah. I think that the interesting thing for me is that I've heard this a lot talked about that. Grunge killed heavy metal. The grunge thing didn't kill blues though, did it? In fact, went back, made very successful albums. That's the only thing that it superseded. The other, it didn't have any effect. And obviously, Gary Moore, Clapton made really good blues albums in the early 90s, which sold.
Coronavirus isn't going to kill the blues either, Simon. Nothing can kill the blues.
Andrew's just written his first lockdown song. Coronavirus ain't gonna kill the blues, baby.
But I think you make a good point there. If hair metal or metal was put to the sword by grunge, it certainly didn't have an effect on the blues. So that's a show.
Yeah.
It's just interesting, that a lot of talk about it. Killed, which it looks like Gary Moore would have been in favour of. He didn't felt like I think it had come to its end anyway by 90. But it's interesting that it killed off one thing, but other music thrived fine alongside it.
Well, so Warren's got this comment up here, Brad. Was that anything that reflects in your experience?
So I used to play the sort of from playing it. It's funny because the songs I always had trouble nailing that one. And I mean, obviously, as a kid, you sit around practicing. I used to sit and practice with the stuff I was comfortable with. I used to play at a decent volume, but the stuff I was not comfortable at, I would not. When I was practicing these sort of songs, I would be sitting there fairly quiet because I felt inadequate. I couldn't actually do it. So I probably saved everyone's ears by not trying to attempt it at the time when I was trying to learn all this stuff, to be honest with you. But I probably ruined my neighbours now probably hate me more than ever because I sat around all day today just like blasting Harry Moore and trying to play along with it again. So, yeah, they're probably not very happy with me.
What about you, Simon? Did your old man ever tell you, shut up, turn that running?
Yeah.
Turn that.
In my house, there are only two things that are unpopular. One was me, the other was my guitar. And if only that were an original line, but it isn't. I stole it lock, stock, and barrel from Bruce Springsteen. But yeah, no, not particularly. No, actually, mind you, I don't know if I said this really, but if you live in a 5-story house, you can if your bedroom is at the top of it, and they're on the first floor. There's a long way to go before they can hear you. But I didn't have kind of in the early 70s when I started playing. I had an electric guitar in the early 70s, a terrible guitar. But I only had like a sort of. I'd love to get it again. Actually, I'd see if it's in my dad's studio. But this kind of it was like a valve radio that you could plug a guitar into it. And I remember, you could make a tremendous noise with it, but it wasn't very loud. Clearly, not very loud because it was like a radio amp. But I can't
enough
remember
to play.
Yeah, enough to play. Yeah, yeah. It's like a sort of sort of hand-built kind of wooden frame and stuff. You know, but you could put the bits still in there. What if it's still around?
How about you, Andrew?
Yeah. My old man didn't like anything that I did, so it didn't matter, you know. So I had that kind of relationship with my old man. My mum was always supportive. She she always thought it was cool. My mum loved music, loved rock and roll. In fact, she turned me on to a lot of music. Joni Mitchell, the Mamas and the Papas, that kind of stuff, came through my mum. A lot of the Motown stuff, country music. Yeah, but yeah, the old man, it didn't matter.
No. My dad was a composer, Brad, you see. So, we had music, all over the house. No, he was a bit older, but he was like 37 when I was born. So he's older than me. But so but I got a lot of jazz out of that, obviously classical music, and we had Beatles records when I was a kid. Help and Hard Day's Night were in the house. I think my mum might have got those, but so there wasn't a huge amount of pop, but there was music, a lot of music, and my dad would teach us the recorder, and and he was always massively supportive. He would come and see us, and he loved it. He used to say to me, "Is that improvised?" His great thing was like, improvisation. So even though he wasn't a great sort of rock fan particularly, but he was always massively supportive about what we did. What I did as a musician, as a minor amateur musician. I think he was pleased that somebody in the family played something. Went out and did something, and so he was. So hats off to him. 6 years. 6 years he died 6 years ago on December the 8th.
Oh,
So
rest
hats
in
off
peace,
to the old
Mr.
man.
Williams. Rest in peace, Mr. Williams.
Yeah.
All
right.
I think
kick off the show.
I think we should get into the tracks. I don't want to sort of keep everyone here for 5 hours. All right, so we've sort of wrapped up where Gary Moore was for this record. I could go on a bit more about his career and stuff like that, but we won't go there today. First track is Moving On. Great opening track. Track sets the mood for what's to come. Really nice slide. Again, I'll bring this comment a couple of times. I can hear some ZZ Top vibes here. A little bit of Tush. You can hear a little bit of that on there. The vocals are stellar. Gary's voice, in my opinion, on this record is sensational. I've heard some recordings of Gary, where his voice it's not bad, but you can tell he's not at his prime. But this record in particular is outstanding. The band's killer. They're keeping it tight and snappy. The piano was a nice touch. He had a mixed bag of musicians on this record, but from what I can tell, this was a great opening track, and I think he recorded this on a Telecaster. I don't think this is on.
Oh wow! Yeah, really?
It's not the Gibson.
I don't think so. I think it was or it might have been tracked with the Telly and Les Paul. I'm not sure, but someone might be, correct me on that if I'm incorrect there. But I gave it 10 out of 10, and I will note as we go on down here, you can get a lot of his performances shining through. He did, and he's been quoted as saying Eric Clapton's Beano record, the Beano record with Clapton and the Blues Breakers, John Mayall and Blues Breakers, was probably one of the greatest guitar sounds he's ever heard. And that I think that's on this record in particular, he used the same amp. He used a Marshall Governor pedal in front of it. I think he used tube scream as well here and there and things like that. But the majority of his tone, he wanted to try and capture that sort of vibe with the Les Paul and that Marshall. That was a whole element behind this record for him. So again, I'm 10 out of 10, and definitely not a skip.
Yeah, cool. Arvin, thank you very much. Arvin's made a very nice comment about my dad having listened to his music. There we are. So that's so my dad was a genius. I know my dad was a genius. He was my dad, but anybody who composes and does his own stuff, he did. Brad, just he did all the music for the first big David Attenborough series.
Oh wow!
Came out in the late 70s called Life on Earth. If you
That's
remember watching Life on Earth at all, that's all my dad's music. So
actually was a little bit of that on YouTube not long ago. Actually, I think.
well, if you manage to catch a bit of Life on Earth, that's my dad. So and Arvin's very kind. So thank you, Arvin. It's very cool. But yeah, I think that one of the interesting comments I've had is that moving on can be categorized as blues, but in tempo, it's not a big step away from heavy rock, really. It's like handing over the baton, the halfway house musically between rock and blues, and saying, I'm ditching this and I'm now going to go down this other, this blues route, much more blues type of route. So, and then I'd written myself more than more rock and roll, more rock than roll, which is kind of summarizes that comment. But yes, I think that's a really good context in which to place it. This song, to say, clearly that's what's going on here, and clearly thought I too thought it was like a modern blues thing, like a sort of I thought it was a bit like Stonesy as well, and just like going on, with the rhythm guitar. That I thought was, more Stonesy than but I see the ZZ Top thing. I'll come to that, and great, like the slide guitar. I think that's pretty cool, And again, the piano. I agree with you about the piano. I love it. I love rock and roll piano. It's can't get away from it. And I love things like "Get out of here" when he says that sort of thing. That's fun and funny. So I'm giving it a 9. Definitely not a skip, and I think it's a really strong opener to the record. I can see why you put it there. So cool track.
Andrew, just before you start, let's make note that this is an actual Gary Moore song. He wrote this one too, because he does a few covers on this album. So.
That's correct. Yeah. That's correct, because there's quite a few songs on the album which are covers, and that's fine because that's what blues guys do. That's the thing. We can take a song and make it our own. But yeah, that's a good point. Look, a great opener. I think Simon's hit the nail on the head. A very clever guy, because he's got that tone which is reminiscent of everything that he's done. So if you're following Gary, you're not going to be scared away by him. It's not as if he's playing just a Strat into a tweed. And his tone is recognizable, but has that ability to just turn it down a notch. It's not frying yet. It fries later on in the album, But I've got that as a 9 out of 10. It's a solid opener, and one of Gary's best songs. Check out some live versions on YouTube. I know we're talking about the album, but we always like to talk about some of the live footages, that we've seen, and we want to relate that back to. But some of the live footage of him playing this song, he just hits it out of the park. So hold on, I'll just present. So if you guys want to check out this DVD, that's the one. That's available on Prime Video. You can watch that on Amazon Prime.
And it's got Moving On it.
Yeah.
Great. It's got Albert Collins as well. And Albert Collins is on this one.
Yeah. So, that's a 9 out of 10 for me. Solid opener. Wonderful track. And the baton being passed on. Simon, so he's basically taking the baton from his left hand and he's putting it into his right hand.
Yeah.
Good point. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Oh Pretty Woman. This one features one of his heroes. He's recruited Albert King for this one. So
yeah,
that's a really bold statement right there. It's the big badass, Albert King, those Albert King licks. If you're going to do it properly, they say, or don't do it at all. And you got the king in, you got Albert King and the Blues in. So
one of the three kings.
Yes. Look, screaming lead intro to start the track. Really strong vocal. I've put here badass Albert King licks, trade-offs with Gary's aggressive power blues licks. The first solo is Gary Moore, who just screams off into an amazing lead break. There's a few more verses and a chorus, I think. And the second solo, Albert King graces us with his classic bends, the classic playing that's, unmistakably him.
Absolutely.
That he influenced so many people that we've discussed even this weekend. Albert King's there. So, then Gary ends the solo in a fiery, screaming sort of way. The breakdown section features some really classic Albert King licks. The band is slightly different. It's got some tenor sax. It's got some trumpet in it. It's sensational. I gave it 10 out of 10. And, I was playing along to this one today, and I must have played about 4 or 5 times. The neighbours probably hate me. But, yeah. It's one of those songs that you can put on, jam along to, whether you know it 100% or not. And, what I say, it's a cover song, but he made it his own. And brilliant, never a skip.
No, I agree. I think apparently there's like a trumpet, tenor sax, 2 tenor sax, a baritone sax, and a Hammond organ. So there's like a proper horn section. I don't know whether it's true, but I always think that those, there's always a nod to BB King Live at the Regal, which seems to be the classic album that has the horn section on it and does that kind of horns thing. I think the horns are great on this. I think they really give it a different, an extra vibe, in there, and drive it along. I put, propelled by the bass and drums start coming at the beginning, bang before he comes in. My favorite thing about it is Albert King and his trademark pipe were flown in on Concorde for the session. I love it. I can imagine Albert King on Concorde with his pipe. That's just, some things are just a great image, aren't they? Hats off to you, Mr. King. Well done. Flying in on Concords to play. And I think there's a difference stylistically between the two, isn't there? As you say, classic Albert King bends and all that. Whereas Gary does a much more kind of modern thing with lots of like fast runs and things, doesn't he? That kind of the different, clearly there's a difference between the two stylistically between the two guitar players, which I think are great. It's really cool. It's and you can hear a difference in the tone between the two of them as well. I don't know what Albert King was playing, but
he would have been playing his classic Lucy guitar, which was a flying hand-built.
It was the Flying V.
Yeah.
Yeah. Slightly different tone. That's cool. Yeah. So yes, and again, I think a lot of things, horns and things like that, and it's a lot of these things. It's the coloration, isn't it? It's what you've got going on, like the Hammond organ and stuff. Is makes a track, gives a track its character, and makes them interesting, really. Because I think it's quite easy. It could turn into generic blues, couldn't it? And you're not really sure. You could be not sure. Whereas clearly this is not that. And a great track. I'd give it 9 and never a skip.
A couple of factors there, Gaz and Albert.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Is Albert playing the Flying V in that? Has he got his Flying V?
That was what he named his guitar, Lucy.
Lucy, yeah.
I don't know if you can see that, but that's Albert. Albert there during the recording session. So. Definitely his V. I don't know if you can see that picture very clearly, but
it's a bit blurry, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, we get the vibe. Yeah.
Hey, Alan. Dr. Gerber.
Good morning, Alan. I hope you're good.
Andrew.
I think it was a smart move by the management or by Gary to get Mr. King involved and get it in early. This is a topic that we love to talk about, guys. about song selection and where they're placed, and if you thought this could be just a normal Gary Moore song with a sleepy intro song going into, you know, what Gary was traditionally doing. This certainly puts the album down the blues route, doesn't it? You know, clearly, beyond any stretch of the imagination. Wonderful job, wonderful decision. And I just want to make one little point before I give my mark. You know, Gary is the main producer on this album. So with all these different instruments going on in the studio, let's not forget that Gary was instrumental in the production. So I didn't know that until I was doing research for the show. So, and then when I was listening to it again this morning, kind of sent a bit of a shiver down my spine, because clearly more than just a guitar player and a musician. I've got that as a 9.5 out of 10, and it's never a skip.
Beautiful. So we're all in the same ballpark with this. It's great. And I agree with you guys more, especially saying the smart move to bring to drive the blues home. You know, so
I think I agree. That's a really good point, isn't it? I'm thinking about you do one thing that's clearly handing over the baton, and then you do a blues song, and you do it with Albert King, as if if you didn't get the message from the first track, I've got a banner. It's called Albert King.
Hey, Pork Chop.
Morning, Pork Chop.
And we do talk heavily about song track listings and the way that they're put through the album. And I was going to save this till the very end, but I think the way that the continuity of the songs on this track, or the tracks on this album, they got it right.
They get better. They get better.
The songs, the lulls, the ups, the downs, the blues, the heavy, the whatever, they did it so brilliantly. So yeah, we'll move on. So we're up to a Jimmy Rogers song called "Walking by Myself," and I know a few blues artists have covered this at the time, but I think Gary made this his own. If you have prior to me sort of going backwards with the blues artists, I actually thought this was a Gary Moore song because it had the way he plays the riff, the guitar tone, the swagger he put in the lick. I did think it was a Gary Moore song, and I obviously discovered it wasn't moving forward. But what can you say about this one? Aggressive intro guitar, that classy volume swell that does so well into the vocals. He sets the mood for the song. His vocals are exceptional. Great use of the harmonica. The solo is classy, fiery, and classic Gary Moore with some hard rock tricks, some palm muting and hat runs, pull-offs, with blistering runs at the end of the solo. My speakers were on fire listening to this again. It gets my blood sort of warmed up listening to this sort of stuff. I feel like I've had a shot of whiskey and a shot of vodka together. It's unbelievable. I don't know what it does for you guys, but I gave it a 10 out of 10. And yeah, amazing version of this song.
Yeah. It is one of the classics, isn't it? I mean, it has become, that it's kind of out, kind of got outside just the blues genre and just outside, and become for me a real classic. Clearly, this is. I mean, I've not listened to this album for a long, long time, so I don't really know, refamiliarize ourselves with most of the track, this one or the next one, but clearly this one is like, oh yeah, this one, oh yes, this one. So really good. I love that. As you're right, da 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 da. Kind of going, if you're looking for trouble, you come to the right place. Kind of gear going on, which I really liked. I agree with you about searing guitar solo, all those fast runs and the guitar punctuations, all very Gary, and great harmonica playing. Again, you bring in a new instrument. Track 3, you bring in a new instrument, something a bit different as a coloration thing, which I thought was really cool as well. So I'm giving it a 10. you know, because it's one for me. This is one of the standout tracks on the album. Absolutely.
Oh, well, I think you've been reading my notes, Simon, because again, I've made that point too. Harmonica, there's a theme going on here with the production on this album. So bringing a harmonica in, classic blues instrument, turned up loud. It's not buried in the mix. You've got Gary channeling EVH there, some of those fast runs. You know, it's which isn't out of place. You know, if it was anybody else doing that, you'd be, it could all fall apart. But Gary, just does that really well. Look, I agree with you guys too. It's a 10 out of 10 for me, always, and it's never a skip.
Yeah, it's got a great swinging tempo, hasn't it? It's just like it's the right speed, isn't it? Morgan.
And everyone, I play this in a blues band, a trio blues band that we do from time to time, and we extend it. Sometimes we do 10-minute versions of this song because it just it's almost a repeat because everyone gets up and dances to it, and it doesn't get anyone off the dance floor, and no one cares if you play, the solo over and over again, and they just keep dancing, and it's like it's quite funny.
It's got that groove, isn't it? It's so got that groove, and just the right groove to give it the swing and. And then people will dance. If it's got swing, people will dance.
Certainly gets the feet tapping, that's for sure. So the next song is a Gary Moore song, reminiscent of Parasail Walkways, which was a really big song for Gary, called Still Got the Groove. The title track, he named the record after this. What can I say about this song? Absolutely love this track. Great lineup of musicians in it as well. I think listening to this song over and over and over in the years, and then listening to it again while I've been doing the studies of these songs, Gary has us all wanting that beautiful Les Paul tone that he has with his stunning lead melody line. You know what I mean? That hooky line. I mean, that's timeless in my opinion. He recorded this with a 59 Les Paul. It wasn't the Greenie that we all people think that it was the Greenie guitar, which is the Peter Green one. It wasn't that one. It was another 59 that he owned that he acquired in about 88 or 89. Features some beautiful, heartfelt lyrics. I'm guessing that it's sort of hitting home a little bit for Gary, maybe. Great string arrangement. His singing is just, I don't know, goosebump material for me. He sets the whole mood for the song. The second verse features some wonderful Paul licks and some goodness there. The chorus is a real tear-jerking. The bridge section setting up as a launching pad for his first amazing solo. The neck pickup tone, thick and full and lush, and I think every person who gravitates to a Les Paul wants to try and capture that tone. It's just timeless. He does another chorus and a build up to like a pause section, and then launches into the melodic solo again, extending the bounds of reality with his feel and emotion. In my opinion, it just, and then when he hits the bridge pickup right at the end and bites in, it just escalates his playing, and his string bending is almost a breaking point. I'm sure he's just stretching the limits of what's capable of bending. There's a good amount of sustain, but it's not too gained up. Like everyone seems to think it's really gained up, but it's, if you listen closely, it's not overgained. It's not a high gain like everyone seems to think. It's hanging in there. The sustain's there, but it's the guitar that's really making it sustain. I could go on for hours about this one particular song, but I'm just going to sum it up with one word: amazing. And I gave it 20 out of 10. And
a 20 out of 10.
This song's got Don Area.
20. Well done. In honor of Brad, you've put 20.
This song's got Don Area on keyboards, who is a very famous keyboard player. Nicky Hopkins on piano, and obviously it's got a string section. It's got and the same rhythm section. Andy Pine and Graham Walker from the previous first few songs. So I'll mention that about those guys. Nicky Hopkins and Don Area are actually on this track, which is you can hear them. They excel. They're there as a support and a blanket for Gary to just walk all over us with his blues. Definitely not a skip, and it's probably the most important blues of the 90s for me.
Yeah. 20 out of 10 skip. Yes. It's not really going, is it? But, I couldn't agree more. I think that one of the things that kind of struck me was that he's singing "Still Got the Blues for You," but it's not really a blues song, is it? I mean, it's not a blues structured song. It's got the blues in it all the way through it, but it's not a blues structured song. It's not a 12-bar kind of thing. It's kind of the chords not that, a bit more sort of, if you like, rock, but
it's not a 1-4-5.
Which I think is
no,
that's what I mean. Yeah, it's a minor thing. So, which I think is fine. Again, going back to what Andrew said, it's not alienating your rock audience kind of thing by doing something that's still a bit, where the lines are a bit less blurred. But you're on track 4, so that's fine. You can induce it. I thought the strings gave it a kind of film noir feel in a funny kind of way. With these very kind of emotional, guitar playing. That I could see it. I could see a kind of spy movie going on, and and this being the soundtrack to it in a funny kind of way, which is great. Mists and kind of cityscape kind of thing. Somebody walking through the streets. Fedora, Mac. I'm making too much of this anyway. So it's one of his classics, isn't it? It absolutely is. If you're going to play, this is what Gary Moore did. This would be one of the songs you'd play, wouldn't you? Because it is clearly one of his classic ones. It's a 20 out of 10. Never a skip, and I think that. There's nothing bad to be said about it at all. And he plays fantastically, lots of emotion. And as you say, that thing about turning up an amp loud with a Les Paul, and then just and you can do that, can't you? You can get all the sustain you ever want for days, and not heavy distortion. Absolutely not heavy distortion. Which gives it, clearly not going for that on this album. having got bored with it, not really liking it. But so great tone as well. It is a great tone, But for me, a classic because again, it kind of gets outside of the genre, doesn't it? You can put it on and people will know what it is, who it is, which I think is the mark of it. Mark of a great song. You go, that's Gary Moore. Still got the blues. Oh yeah, which I think is as I say, the mark of it for me. So 20 out of 10. Well, I only 10. I only put 10. I lied about the 20 and stole it from Andrew. But because I'm reading his notes that he showed earlier.
It's a masterpiece for me. It's a masterpiece. It's probably my favourite Gary Moore song, and I'm reading some of the comments here in the chat where guys are saying that it's a great song to play to. The intro is, it's a delicate intro, but it's pretty good. If you've got the tabs, you can have a crack at it. It's, a beginner guitar player can have a go at it, and it's always something. Getting that rake is pretty difficult. But I love the song. I've got 20 out of 10 here. I love it. It's a masterpiece. They've put it in early. They knew that this was a good song. When they were recording this album, they knew that this was a masterpiece, and they didn't hold it towards the back. So, again, they've hooked you in right at the beginning. Interesting little fact, Eric Clapton, we love Eric Clapton. I love Eric Clapton, but he's unfortunately got, amongst all his albums, some horrible albums. And in 2013, he released a horrible album called Old Sock. And it's horrible. Don't go and listen to it. But if you want to, go and
Who
listen
thought
to
that was
his.
a good title? You know,
Yeah.
I'm going to come on your old sock, Eric.
David Bowie.
You're not going to call it old sock. What David Bowie persuaded him to play? Really?
Yeah. So it's anyway, it's a horrible album. But he does a very good cover version of this song in honor of Gary Moore. So, 20 out of 20, 20 out of 10. Love the song. It's never a skip. In fact, it's interesting, Simon, because you're right. It's not a blues song, but it is. And it will always be in the blues canon as a song to emulate, as a song to learn and perform to.
Oh yes, yes.
Love it.
Clearly in singing and in and guitar emotion and feel, it clearly is a blues song. Except, as Brad said, it's not a 1-4-5 blues song.
Yeah.
And we'll make note, just on a side note, to Still Got the Blues. There's some amazing versions of this song online. There's one on YouTube from a gig he did called Blues Alive. It's a small club. I shared it with you, Andrew, back yet last night. I sent it to you to watch, but it's phenomenal. It's one of the best versions. But I'll just quickly deviate. This version that he does on this Blues Alive.
Oh yeah, that's phenomenal. Yeah, hold on.
The live version. So do yourselves a favour and check the live version of it out on this record. And then if you do manage to get this record up on Spotify or wherever you go to listen to music these days, go to the 12th song called Paraslin Walkways. Have a listen, and you'll hear the evolution of Still Got the Blues. That's where it comes. And just on that note, Paraslin Walkways, there's one there that he holds that will bring a tear to your eye.
Yeah.
So anyway.
That note.
That one note.
Yeah.
I want to mention that. All right. So for all you blues nuts out there, get onto that.
Thank you.
All right.
That's a good point. I think that's a really good point, Brad, isn't it? That clearly this is the son of Parisian Walkways.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that's one of the things where he's old fans, because that was one of his biggest songs to date, this album. So he's brought those fans from that loved that song across. So anyway, we'll get on to Texas Strut, which is the next one. Gary Moore song. A massive nod to the hat of his Texan blues heroes, without a doubt. He's mentioning them all through the song, the nice blues turnaround, 1, 2, 3, 4 intro. He does all that sort of swaggery Texas blues stuff. He brings up Billy Gibbons. He brings up Double Trouble, Stevie Ray, and he even nods his hat to LaGrange there, like howl, 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 howl.
Yeah, I know.
And
what's not to like about howl, 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 howl?
Yeah, amazing Texas overtones throughout. Like his licks are, very Texasy, screaming solo. The second part of the solo is blistering hot. Like if it doesn't do something to you as a guitarist, then you need a pulse checked. There's something wrong with you, The middle section features some really cool Texas stylings, and the second solo is insane. Again, like I said, nods to Billy Gibbons with the LaGrange section that they're doing. Like he does that sort of Texas thing that Billy Gibbons does so well. A well-written and performed song, nod to his Texas heroes, and I gave it a 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah. Couldn't agree. Clearly. But what I liked is that even down the sort of homage, but even down to the change of key for the solo, like LaGrange, goes to C, doesn't it, from A, and he does the same thing. I don't know if it goes from A to C, but it does the same interval to go into the solo, which is like, oh look, he's even doing that. Good work.
Like we mentioned. Sorry to cut you off, Simon, but we mentioned earlier that Bob Daisley said he should do a blues record, but Bob's playing on this song, and Don Airy on Hammond organ as well, and I forgot to mention that. So anyway, off you go.
And Brian Downey on the drums.
That's
From
right.
Thin
Yeah.
Lizzy, of course, from
Yep.
Thin Lizzy. Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, a 9 out of 10 for me. It was great fun. I loved it. You know, it's kind of, I'm all, you know me, I'm all for a quote and and a bit of homaging. That's absolutely fine in my books. Big smile to my face. So, you know, that's a 9 out of 10. Definitely not a skip. So, you know, and I think a really good end to side one is what I'd say. You know, different to, you know, again, different to what's gone before. But, you know, clearly signposting this is this is a blues rock album. It's not a heavy metal album by a distance. And yeah, I'm saying these are some of my heroes, some of the people I've really liked playing stuff. It's yeah, really cool. Really cool. So 9 out of 10, no skipping. Side one, no skipping.
Yeah, it's not a skip for me. I love that creamish kind of intro that he's got going on there, you know, with those arpeggio chords, and yeah, I love that. I feel free kind
I
of.
feel free.
That's the yeah, got that vibe going on. Look, you know, isn't it great, you know, that a reputable, well-known blues guy is singing about his heroes? It's great, you know. I love it. It's 8 out of 10. It's not a skip. It's 8 out of 10. Yeah, and it's a good way to end the side one. Yeah, definitely. After listening to Still Got Your Blues, it's yeah, that's a pretty hard song to follow.
Yeah, so you follow it with something completely different, you know, something that, you know, and that's absolutely, and something reasonably light as well. You know, I'm taking a point about, you know, you know, it brings a smile to your face, doesn't it? You know, it clearly is not a sort of deep, you know, heavy thing. It's a homage to his heroes, and I think that's, you know, absolutely where it should be in terms of, you know, if you're, you know, because it contrasts Still Got the Blues and doesn't try and fight with it, you know, competitively for a, you know, for position. So I think that it absolutely, you know, does a really good job doing that. And after a smooth landing on side two.
Side two. Too tired. This is how I'm feeling right now. Too tired to get up. I'm tired. An old Johnny Guitar Watson song features one of his heroes, Albert Collins. Absolutely love the trading licks at the intro. If you're not aware of, when you're listening to this, one of them's Gary, one of them's Albert. So the first time through, I think it's Gary, and the second one's Albert. It goes on and on and on like that, which is, you know, Albert Collins. If you listen to Albert Collins play, if you listen to some of his live recordings, he's got that fire in his playing, and I think Gary takes a lot from Albert Collins' playing, not copying, but the firiness that Collins had in his playing. So that being said, all class and style from both guitarists, screaming hot, pushing each other on the guitar. Sounds like they had a lot of fun recording this one. Nice brass section, really strong vocals from Gary. I love the vocals. I love the lyrics on this song too. You know, they're sitting on, I'm too tired to get up. It's like, you know, we can all relate to the lyrics. You know, some guys where we're just drained and tired, but you just keep going, but you just, you know, you're too tired for anything. So what can I say more than, you know, 9 out of 10 for this song? Definitely not a skip. I love listening to Albert Collins as well. So this song in particular, they both push each other, which is great. It's got some great saxophone and trumpet. Don Airy on piano. Yeah, it's one of those songs that I think you could play to anyone to introduce them to a bluesy side of Gary Moore, because there's a lot of firiness in it still. But a great way to start side two. Great great way to open side.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Does it? I hope
great live. You know, it was always done well live. So especially on which one was it? Especially on this one, which I mentioned before. So on this, if you manage to find this, it's on YouTube as well. There's, if they haven't pulled it down already.
Is there a second guitar player on that, Brad?
Albert Collins is playing on it. Is featured.
Oh,
on
he does play that one. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, cool.
3 songs with Albert Collins on this one, so
yeah,
worth checking out.
That was quite loud. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that Johnny Guitar Watson, check out A Real Mother for you if you want Johnny Guitar Watson to check out, the album to check out. Really cool. But yeah, I love the I love the interplay between the two of them. You know, back and forth. They're sort of trading licks. You know, really great funky piano from Don Airy, and as you say, great saxophone and stuff. And love the horns. You know, again, giving it color, texture, and stuff. Really important, I think, for these songs that that you have different colors and different textures on them to so that there's difference between the two. Yeah, love the interplay. 9 out of 10 for me. Really strong opening to side 2. Does what it should do.
Yeah, I've got 9 out of 10 too, guys. The guitar playing, the interplay is fantastic. It's a good example of two different guitar styles playing well. What's it called? Call and response. That kind of classic blues
staple. Nope.
Andrew might
style. And again, sorry, I've got no control over the internet, guys.
No worries.
You can always imagine them smiling at each other when they're recording this. I don't know if they recorded this live, whether the guitar solos were recorded individually or independently from each other. I'd like to think that they were looking at each other and going, yeah, But good point that Brad makes. If you watch the DVD, you just get a fuller appreciation of what these songs are. So 9 out of 10.
So we're all in the same ballpark, which is great.
Yep.
King of the Blues. That's what we're up to now. So King of the Blues is basically a song that Gary Moore wrote as a nod to Albert, one of his heroes, Albert King. Mr. Albert King of the Blues, born in Mississippi, 1924. The way he sings it, it's all about Albert. He's channeling some of his best Albert King licks that he can do. He mentions Lucy's famous guitar, Albert King's famous guitar, Lucy, and some hauntingly beautiful guitar playing in this song. I gave it a 9 out of 10, and I really, for someone who can play so many different styles on guitar, it's just amazing that he can channel all these different players and pull it off so well and stylistically, but still sound like Gary Moore. So that's an art form in itself. So again, amazing song. Gave it 9 out of 10. Never a skip.
No, I think that it's a lot of these things. The art of the album, isn't it? It's the art of the album. Keep it to 10 tracks, make them good, make them flow, make them interesting, make them change as you go through, make it a bit of a journey. And I still think that he is applying that methodology here for me, which I think is really cool. It's not just pick out a song. It's here is a body of work. You take them as one thing, you listen to it from beginning to end. And the songs do a thing with themselves and their relationship with the song previous and the song after it, which I think is really important. I think this is a great track, isn't it? It's just really good fun. Love the horns playing. I love the call and response between the guitar and the vocals that he does. Still that classic blues call and response stuff. Really nice, lush sound. And a kind of, I put a more modern blues guitar playing with kind of clearly he's bringing some of his own style and what he's learned over 20 years of playing. It's not just Albert King licks, is it? Kind of thing. It's there is a Gary Moore in, as you said, Brad. Brings his own style and his own thing to it, and slightly slower tempo and great impassioned singing. I think that if it's one thing that he does well, it's impassioned, isn't it? Gary, if he's feeling it, he's feeling it. And clearly he's feeling it on this record. And you coming out of every pore is the passion and the kind of about all of the songs and about doing them justice. So hats off to him for that, because it's after 20 years it can be difficult to light the fire, but clearly the fire is well and truly lit, and going back to what he loves. So I think that as I say, I give it a 9 out of 10, not a skip. Again, it does something slightly different. There's a slight difference in their style and things that make it cool.
Okay, I've given that song a 10 out of 10. I love the song. Yeah, I've given it a 10 out of 10, and I wanted to do a special shout out to Andy Pyle, the bass player, who has a blues legacy himself. He's played with Savoy Brown and a lot of the British blues guys in the 60s. He even played for who's the Newcastle band? The
Animals.
The Animals. Yeah, played bass. So not a fancy bass player, and in fact his bass playing gets better and better on some of the other songs that we're probably not going to talk about. Stop Messing Around and All Your Love. Just a solid bass player. And I know that we like to joke about bass players, but we take them seriously, guys, don't we? Because they are important. And Brad, you would know this especially, and you too, Simon, with your backing tracks. If you don't have that bass line going, when you make a mistake as a guitarist, who's going to bring you back home?
Who's making a mistake?
Oh, okay, well.
Yes, only the one. But Andy Pyle played with the Kinks.
The Kinks, sorry.
The Kinks, Blodwyn Pig, Savoy Brown, and later with that Wishbone Ash.
Yeah. So he's a phenomenal bass player. And a little bit like Tommy Shannon the other night when we were talking, not a fancy ass player, just sits in the pocket and allows a guy like Gary Moore and these horn section guys to get out there and do what they do. Look, I love this song. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, no, it is a great song, really. I can't give every song 10 out of 10, otherwise I would. It's and Don Airy is on that one as well again.
Yeah.
On Brian Downey.
Yeah.
Great rhythm section there, Andy Pyle and Brian Downey. Not getting better than that, are you?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing lineup of musicians you had on this record. Really,
he had a hot band. Band. Aye, no wonder it's a good record.
Who wouldn't want to play with Gary Moore? You know what I mean? So we're up to.
But also, sorry, Brad, but also using them in the right context. Bringing the right person in, because not everyone plays on everything. Bringing them in, the right the right musician for the song that you're going to play. Which I think is,
no doubt. And I mean that's one thing a lot of these blues artists do now is they use the same. It's a bit incestual. They all kind of use the same musicians on their records. So you might find this guy's played on that record as well. And even to this day, guys like Joe Bonamassa does the same thing. He uses all these guys that are renowned as being the guys to support the guitarist. Yeah.
Well, famously, Reese Wiggins from Stevie Ray Vaughan's band. And Michael Clark on bass.
So, Gary had he could have used any musicians he wanted to, but he used the ones he knew that were going to be right. That's good point. Very good point. So the next song is As the Years Go Passing By. Another haunting number, a nod to Albert King again. Some beautiful guitar playing. It's drenched in timeless reverb. I've put here. There's a great reverby tone to this one. Heartfelt lyrics, heartfelt vocals. Great piano solo. Don Airy's Hammond work is spookily good, like spookily good in my opinion. Brass section fun, and the end solo is stellar. Like this, the more I listened to this song, the more I thought to myself, this one is like a dark horse on the record, and I gave it a 9 out of 10. And his guitar playing on it is hauntingly good, hauntingly good. 9 out of 10. Never.
No, it's I agree with you. I think that interesting. I was looking up because I didn't recognize Deirdre Malone. I don't. Apparently it's a pseudonym of a guy called Don Roby who ran Peacock Records and eventually owned Duke Records in Texas, doing many R&B and artists in the 50s and 60s. So he had sort of a bit of a background in that, which I didn't know anything about, which is interesting. But yeah, I mean, I agree. That kind of huge guitar sound, and it really is big, isn't it? Kind of plenty of space to be given. Yeah, which again is important. You know, everybody else is kind of quite, you know, and he's got all that space to fill, and fills it beautifully with the, you know, on that slow burning blues. I think that, you know, the drums are great, and the backing organ is really cool. I love the impassioned vocals and, you know, lead guitar playing, and I like the smoky horns give it a kind of late night feel to it, kind of, you know, not quite film noir, but that kind of thing. You know, you can see smoky nightclubs, can't you? You know, playing in smoky nightclubs and things, which is really, really good. You know, and it's a case of, you know, obviously clearly impassioned by the project and stuff, and, you know, getting the right people into it. He's got Nicky Hopkins, you know, playing on it, and Brian Downey and things, and Don Airy, you know, playing really nice Hammond organ. You know, it just all adds to the atmosphere, and what you know, when you construct a track, and you know, people, they know what to do, don't they? Nobody's overplaying, nobody's trying to elbow their way to the front, or, you know, it's kind of, you know, clearly understand what's going on. So I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. Never, you know, and I think it's you know, interestingly the first slow one, isn't it? You know, we've not really had a slow one. You still got the blues, is kind of slow, but different thing.
No. It's if you have a good listen to the Albert King version, and then you listen to this one, there's a lot of similarity, and that's why I said it's like a nod to Albert. So.
Yeah, good. Yeah, cool. Nothing wrong with that.
Okay, I don't know if you guys caught a comment that I made earlier. The songs get better and better for me. I've given this song 10 out of 10. I love it. Nicky Hopkins playing the piano along with Don Airy just gives it that, it takes it to another dimension for me. I won't call it a masterpiece, but I just think that, you know, Gary Moore just has this ability, and I think it's one of the great things that a true guitar player, as opposed to a very good guitar player or a giant. I can't find the word for it at the moment, but you know, a lot of guys can plug in and play power chords and rock around, and then to go and play a slow blues song without making any mistakes and hit those notes. Gary Moore's one of those guys. I've given it a 10 out of 10.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a spooky song, and if you really listen to it, like I was listening to this album again last night, you know, sort of dark setting, like not much light, just very. You can really, really get absorbed and drenched into that mood, and it's so deep and dark and it's haunting. So if you haven't listened to it in a while, guys, go and listen to that one, because people normally gravitate to Pretty Woman and Walking and Still Got the Blues, but go and listen to As the Years Go Past Me By. You know, go and have a look.
Yeah, it's a deep track. Yeah, it's good point.
It's definitely, and you know,
a sleeper.
And then, do yourself a favor and listen to Albert King's version as well.
Big time.
Yeah. So we're up to Midnight Blues, and this song almost feels like a part two of the last song in a way. It's like a part two. It is a Gary Moore song though, this one. So whether he was influenced from recording as the years go passing by, and then he decided to write something, and this is what came out. But it fits perfectly after the previous song. It's a dark, deep bluesy vibe. Features some beautiful guitar tones. Again, drenched reverb tones. So I love it when he uses those over reverb tones that he pulls.
Yep.
Very sad and mellow tone to his vocals. Hauntingly good. Really nice strings. I gave it 9.5 out of 10, and it's never a skip.
Yeah, that's a good point about it being like part two of the previous track. Yeah, it's also interesting, I think, to end an album with two slow ones, and I think that this particular, it feels like an ending track, doesn't it? It feels like that kind of coda to an album, a kind of slow, calming it down, and kind of end of thing vibe, which I thought was really cool. It's again, atmospheric guitar, strings. Love the strings on it. I think that I think it's good use of strings on this album. Just to kind of punctuate things on particular tracks, give them an atmosphere, and give them a backing. Not on everything. Not 2 or 3 tracks is crying. And I like the mellow electric piano track. Just a matter of interest, Mick Weaver, the guy who plays electric piano on it, is a real. He replaced Steve Winwood in Traffic. They are amongst his other credits and stuff. So he's a real veteran of the British blues scene, playing Hammond B3 and stuff. So he played with everybody really. He's played with Eric Burdon, Frankie Miller, Roger Chapman, Steve Marriott, Taj Mahal, Buddy Guy. He played with a lot of people, and so he's a really good person to come and play on this. With a real pedigree of playing stuff, which is really cool, and stuff. So yeah, it's a 9 out of 10 for me. I think it's a really nice, a coda ending to the album, sort of calming it down, taking it down, and yeah, really good. Yeah, never and not a skip. Damn, no skips.
Yeah, I've got a note here about the bass playing again. The bass playing on the song is exceptional. Just in the pocket, it's just fantastic. I'm glad that Brad's brought up the reverb aspect. One of Gary's heroes, Peter Green, loved reverb, and they managed to do that really well on some of their live albums, like live at the Boston Tea Party, Jumping at Shadows. It's got a lot of reverb. So, again, and we're not surprised, are we? Because, there's a couple of other songs and there's a whole album dedicated to Peter Green. But, that's Gary taking something out of one of his heroes that wasn't from Texas, wasn't from Chicago, and just putting a little bit of his mark on something. I've got a 9 out of 10, and it's never a skip.
I mean, that was the end of the actual album when it came to the LP version. I think the CD had 2 more tracks on it. Did you guys?
I've marked those.
Did you guys want to just quickly touch on them? Maybe I think it's 3 songs actually.
Yeah, I'd like.
Yeah.
I listened.
Yeah, I've got marks.
Yeah. I got notes and marks.
Yeah.
It's important we do talk about at least the next one, because this one in particular, George Harrison wrote, and he actually wrote this song from my sort of investigating. He wrote this song originally for Eric Clapton, which Eric was going to put on Journeyman, which came out, but I don't think it made the cut. But there are versions of it floating around as well. So, but we won't go on to Eric too much. George Harrison, anyone knows me well knows I love the Beatles, and like Abbey Road, it's probably one of my all-time favorite records of all, like out of any band. It's We Should Do That One Day. George Harrison, was I mean, he even wrote, so many amazing, great songs in the Beatles era, but past the Beatles. We spoke about the Layla sessions, a bit about George Harrison there. So I think, from my understanding, this was a return favour for Gary Moore featuring on "She's My Baby," which was a Travelling Wilburys song.
Yeah.
It was his track. So it was like, okay, well, I featured on yours. So, but I think it was more to do with the friendship that they struck up. I think George Harrison and Gary Moore had sort of formed a bit of a friendship there. And George featured on rhythm guitars, slide guitar, and backing vocals on this song. This song to me is fantastic. Great melody, hooky vocals. It's fantastic to hear George playing slide. I've always loved his slide guitar playing.
He's good, eh? He's good, eh?
And he,
well, he's George Harrison.
Yeah.
That sounds like a stupid thing to say, but you know what I mean. He only plays that slide guitar bit, and you go, "Oh, that's George Harrison." And to me, that's the mark of a great musician. Actually, you play just a little bit, and you go, "Oh, that's George Harrison." And it sounds damning with faint praise, and it blooming isn't. It absolutely, means, that is a class musician. If in a few notes you can get, you go, "Oh, George Harrison, there he is."
Well, for me, that's okay. For me, it's just, the highlight for me is George on this song. I love hearing George play slide guitar. In his solo career, he played a lot of slide. Gary plays outstandingly well on it. He's very tasty with his guitar playing. He's not overplaying. He's not trying to be a heavy metal hero. He's just playing like what's needed on the track. It's complementing, if anything, what George is doing on the song. I put here Nicky Hopkins on piano. His work is great. So Nicky Hopkins is on piano. The saxophone is a great colour to the song. And George Harrison had a lot of saxophone in a lot of his solo material and things like that, and brass and that. So this song does typically sound like a George Harrison song to me, not a Gary Moore song. And for me, look, I gave it a 10 out of 10. I'm maybe a bit biased because I love the Beatles and I love George Harrison, but the lineup of the band alone, Nicky Hopkins, Bob Daisley, Graham Walker on drums. Look, George Harrison alone being on the track is the highlight for me. So 10 out of 10. Yeah. And I'm glad that this came out on the CD release. It graced our ears with the magic that it has in the track. Never a 10 out of 10 for me.
No. It's interesting, isn't it, that you can see. I made that same connection with like the Travelling Wilburys. That's what I wrote down as well. I thought, that's a bit Travelling Wilburys-ish, pre-Travelling Wilburys. But I think George, like in common with many musicians, is searching for other musicians to play with, isn't he? He's done his best work when he's played with it. I think we're all agreed that the best solo Beatles album is All Things Must Pass. Not to be too contentious, that's my cards on the table. But and that is playing with Eric and with Bobby. And that Derek and the Dominoes band, that clearly, I think that George, wants that thing, doesn't he, of being in a band, which is, works best in the Travelling Wilburys and these things. And I think, as you say, in this sort of context, but you can see why they wouldn't have put it on the album because of what you said.
Yeah.
It's like a George Harrison track, and it's not. If you're saying I'm going back to my blues roots and I'm going to do a blues thing, it isn't quite that. So I can see why it's left off, of a 10 or 12 track, was it 10 tracks kind of album, because you wouldn't, it's not quite that, is it? But it's still a 10. Absolutely, and as I say, for me, George Harrison, it's not, it's just George Harrison playing, and you recognise it straight away, and I think that's really classy. Anybody who can do that, has few notes and who it's playing, is really cool. I agree with you. I think Nicky Hopkins does a great job, and the sax and all of that stuff, and it's quite a lush sound, kind of big sound that. And definitely a 10 out of 10, definitely worth an extended play. But I can see why they left it off. So, but great. loved it as a track. Yeah. Because it has that kind of familiarity, doesn't it? Those George Harrison things that you go, oh, George Harrison. So, hats off to him for that.
Awesome. I've given that a 9.5 out of 10. I've made another comment about the bass. I'm sorry, guys. I just
do it.
I just
Bob Daisley.
I don't know why, but I'm not going to repeat what you guys have said about George, because I've written exactly what you guys have said, other than what a wonderful piece of work with George on there. And I agree with you, Simon. I know exactly why they didn't include this on the release. But I can't understand why they didn't put the bloody other 2 songs on this album.
Steady now. Steady.
So we'll move on now. All Your Love, Otis Rush song. All Your Love, Otis Rush song. I'm interested now to hear Andrew's explanation on this.
Yeah. Andrew's going second on this. Let me tell you, Mr. Soapboxed.
Andrew, you want to go next? All right. So All Your Love, I'll put here. Where is my notes? Okay, Otis Rush song. It's a nod to Otis, but more so to Peter Green. He played in John Mayall and the Blues Breakers this song. So great lead breaks and overall tones. Screaming lead main guitar solo. The double time section singing is great. Nice brass section. I'm going to hand it over to you guys because I want to hear Andrew's explanation now, because I'm very
yes.
So I gave it a 9.5 out of 10, and I want to hear Andrew.
Mr. Walton, over to you.
Look, I've given. I'll keep it easy for you guys. Anybody that covers songs made famous by the first generation of British blues guys and takes it in a completely different direction but keeps it authentic deserves top marks. So, I've given this a 10 out of 10. And I just can't understand why it wasn't included on the album. I know 1990 it was a little bit different, as far as albums go, and CDs and stuff like that. It was they had to make a distinction about what songs were going to be on there. I'm glad that they put this on the CD issue. It's just fantastic. It's just a great tribute. I love it. And yeah, I'm glad it's out there. Simon,
do you think it's because they might have felt it's a bit too close to the John Mayall version?
No, I think the reason why they didn't put it on there is because they thought maybe it was a bit too obscure.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
Possibly. I mean, who knows? We don't really know, but yeah, I was very keen to hear Andrew's explanation. So thanks for that.
I suppose the other question that we ought to ask is, obviously, that clearly they've done like a 10-song record, and in my book, that's never a bad thing.
No.
to quote the great Roger Corman, the great B-movie film director, there's not a film been made that wouldn't benefit from having 30 minutes cut out of it. And I think that a 10-song album is really cool, and I think that clearly, they had a vision about what they wanted to do. But so, Andrew, which song would you take off the album and put this on instead?
Maybe Texas Blues, Texas Shuffle.
Oh, look at that! Ooh.
Yeah.
But would it go after Still Got the Blues? I think
No, I think you've got to weigh it up, guys. I mean, Gary obviously wanted his songs on the record over a couple.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And mate, fantastic. Yeah. I'm just glad that we've got them on these, and then he went and did the bloody solo album, Blues for Granny, which is phenomenal.
Yeah. So, yeah, what did you rate it, Simon?
Oh, I give it a 9 out of 10. I think it's a really, I really liked it. I mean, because clearly we did the Beano album a couple of weeks ago, so it's kind of still fresh in the memory and kind of thing. And it's a great track. And clearly, from the kit he used on this, the Les Paul and the Marshall JTM 45 and all of that, clearly, this album would have had the John Mayall album would have had a tremendous effect on Gary Moore. He's one of the seminal albums in terms of sound and things. And so if you're going to do it, then you are going to do a song off it, aren't you? And and
Gary's quoted as saying that Blues Breaker Beano record was the game changer for him tone-wise.
Yeah. Like so many, that's why it's a groundbreaking record, because it introduced that whole thing, which is so. I too I give it a 9 out of 10. I mean, I think that I'd have difficulty swapping out. I wouldn't know what track particularly to swap out from from the album that we've just reviewed, but I think maybe you do a 12 song, but then do you change change the running order, and then you change the feel of it, kind of thing, and what Gary wanted to do. And clearly, he's producing, so he's got a clear idea about what he wants the album to say. So I don't, and we've given, it's clearly a great record as it stands. Those 10 tracks, clearly work, clearly organised and clearly programmed so that they work together. And stuff like that. So it's do you go 12 tracks or 11 tracks or something? But it's a great track, and I think that the band play really well. I like the uncredited horns on it. It's really cool. So really good version of it, and
well,
cool.
I mean, it's no secret that Gary was a huge fan of Eric Clapton and Peter Green. Peter Green and Gary made up a bit of a friendship there while he was touring with Skid Row, when he was in the band Skid Row, and that's not to be mistaken for the 80s, 90s band Skid Row either. So stop messing around. Peter Green, it's a Fleetwood Mac track. He played Greenie on this track. What was the match 20 out of 10?
Don't you score that below 10. Both of yous.
I rated it 10.
Good. Awesome.
It's a lot of people thought he played the Greenie on this whole album. He didn't. He didn't really play. He played a 58 Les Paul on this album, but not necessarily on this album much at all. It was not really featured on this album, but this song features Greenie.
Yes.
You can hear the nasal tone.
Yep.
Gary Moore channeling his inner Peter Green with his licks, his solos. Vocals are stellar and a great way to end the CD. I thought it was a great way to end the CD, and I gave it 10 out of 10. And that's not just because you showed me your 20 out of 10.
Frankly, it's just cheating doing 20 out of 10. Can I just say, this show is all about
Brad
doing
started it.
10.
Brad started it.
About doing it out of 10, not out of 20.
Brad started the halves and the 20s.
Yeah. Yes. Introducing extra rules.
Extra
about the format.
Bloody Australians.
Come round here with your format changes. 20 out of 10. What I like it, it's not 12 or 15, it's 20. You go straight from 10 to 20. Like, isn't it? It's like a logarithmic change. 1 to 10 is 10, not to 11. No, 10 to 20. Right, okay. I'm getting the idea.
It's like next level. That's what it means.
Next.
So, Simon, do you just want to make a note to the comment here? We've reviewed this album.
We have. So about 4 or 5. If you go back 4 or 5 weeks, Hobo Roadie, we indeed went through this album in this very way, and it is on the channel. Yeah,
Yeah.
one of our me
Good episode.
and Andrew and Brad. Yeah,
Check it out.
Strut. Great album. Anyway, so stop messing around. I give it to.
You bastard. You
It's irresistible.
Oh.
No.
You bastard. That's the
Rubbish.
first 4. That's the first 4 the show's ever given. The lowest has been a 5.
Did I not give? Did I not? Oh, so I gave. What's it? The Ray Charles song. Didn't I give that a 4 or 5 or something?
Yeah, and
3?
Parchment Farm 2. Yeah. No, we've given honest marks.
But,
I did.
No. This is a 9 out of 10. This is a great track, and I really liked it, and I think it has a great feel. You know, I think it's got a bit of a got a bit of a smoother sound, as befits the 90s and things, but it's great horn riffing. You know, just a great track, and great tribute to Peter Green as well, using Greenie on it. You can absolutely hear that. So
big time.
It's a great track. You know, it's definitely. You know, no, I wouldn't skip it on on any record. It's really good. Yeah, as I say, the difficult bit is to work out: would you put this on instead of another track? Will you put it on instead of Texas Strut?
No.
No. I think Texas Strut does a particular thing at the end of side 1 to contrast off, but in a light way that maybe these things wouldn't have done in the same way. I don't know. There we are. There's something we can do. Get our old cassettes and remake the album with it and put them in, or do playlist with them in. I don't know.
I reckon deep down, Gary may have known he was going to be doing a tribute album for Peter Green at some point.
No, maybe. Yeah. Did he do it? Is it on that one? Did it come out on that? Right.
No. He did a whole record called Blues for Greenie.
Yeah. But is this on it?
I think it is. It's on the live record version. I've got this on DVD, the live gig for this on DVD. It's not actually on this CD.
So Blues for Greenie's got If You Be My Baby, Long Grey Mare, Merry-Go-Round, I Loved Another Woman, Need Your Love So Bad, The Same Way, The Supernatural, Drifting, Showbiz, Blues, Love That Burns, and Looking for Somebody. And then the bonus tracks came out a couple of years later with World Keeps On Turning, The Same Way, and Stop Messing Around.
Oh, as an acoustic version. So not this version. That's interesting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes, interestingly, Blues for Greenie's got Andy Pyle on bass on it.
Yeah, phenomenal bass player. No, seriously, I would have probably taken All Your Love, not included All Your Love. I was just mucking around with you guys earlier, but Stop Messing Around should have been on the album, and even if that meant editing that 7 minutes song that we were talking about. Hold on, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, it's as years go passing by.
Yeah. Maybe they could have edited that back. Stop Messing Around would have just fitted in well. I just love that out of phase tone. And Gary just gives it everything that it deserves. And then obviously Blues for Greenie is phenomenal. There's so much work there, isn't there?
There's you talk about blues records. These are all like pretty much Gary's blues records. There's like that's
Are they all post this record, Brad? Are they all? Hey? Those are all post this record. Yeah.
No, that's an official release. They're all official releases, like all.
But they're all after this one. What I'm saying is, this is the first one in that Gary Moore plays lots of. Oh no, Skid Row's not. No, that's early 70s. Yeah.
One, Back to the Blues, great. Power of the Blues. That's another one he did. This is an amazing album, After Hours. That's a great record. If you haven't, that's like part 2, we still got the blues, in my opinion. then the Best of the Blues came out with some live tracks and featuring.
That's a fantastic album.
The
That
live
album is mandatory. That live, yeah.
Yep, and the live disc, which is this too, is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
If you haven't got that, you've got to get your hands on that.
Yeah.
On new ballads, that's like there's a couple of new versions of Midnight Blues on there and things like that, and All Your Love. So
Yep.
that's really cool. We just mentioned Good Blues for Green. There they all go on the
floor. Cymbals.
I really enjoyed that album, although some of the mixes on these are a bit, in my opinion, not the greatest, but that wasn't so much blues, a bit of blues on that. There's that one.
Awesome.
Monsters of Rock, which has got a bit more of his heavier stuff on it as well. And that was an interesting album, very Hendrixy thing he did called Scars.
Yep.
So that was quite a good record too. But the mix on it sounds like a bit of a Pro Tools unmastered mix to me. But that I'm just being super critical. But I'm still grateful that he released it. Still grateful to have heard.
Yeah, no, completely. Yeah.
I'm sweeping to the one side. But yeah.
They make a tremendous noise every time we put their heads up. Clank.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got pretty much every note that Gary Moore's recorded on CD, hard drive, or DVD or video. So, like, I'm a nut for Gary Moore. Still live blues. If you check that out online, that's a mandatory. If you love the Still Got the Blues record, go to YouTube and just look up live blues. There's a small club gig. He gets BB King up, and they do The Thrill Is Gone, and the other song he plays with BB, which is, I keep forgetting the name of the damn thing. Since I Met You, Baby. Great song. But so
lots to check out in the Gary Moore blues canon for sure.
And so on this version here, there's a bunch of other tracks that were released on this remastered version called, and they're worth listening to.
Yep.
The Stumble. I'll read them out. The Stumble, Left Me with the Blues, Further On Up the Road, Mean Cruel Woman, The Sky's Crying. So if you can find those online somewhere, they're worth listening to as well.
Yeah, they're all on Spotify, Brad, which is good. 90% of his stuff's on Spotify. So if people aren't members of Spotify, you got to get on there because that's where all the stuff's at now.
Yeah, so it's great that there's a resource that's got all that stuff up there, even though the artist only gets 0.04 cents per play.
Yeah.
There's a really interesting interview that Joe Bonamassa just did with a guy, and they talk about that, about Spotify and about things. Yeah, it's really good. I don't know if have you caught those live from Nerdville interviews?
Yeah.
That Joe Bonamassa was doing really good. Yeah, he did one the other day with a journalist. It was really good.
But,
I'll be interested to catch up with you guys next year when we do a show with our top 5 blues guitarists. We haven't done that. That's going to be an interesting show.
There's more than 5 that I think I'll straight off the bat that are my favourites, but it would be like culling some to put others in.
Yeah. Well, that's going to force you to make some severe choices.
Are we doing top 5 British blues players?
Yeah.
Top 5. Yeah. Ooh. That's going to be tricky.
Brad, thank you very much for the introduction and running through on this album. I have a fondness for this album. I bought it when it first came out, and I thrashed that song. Still Got the Blues for You. I think I just played that 20 times. I think it's a masterpiece of a song. If there is one song on the album that is a standout for me, it has to be that song.
I think it's the it wraps everything up about Gary Moore in one song.
Yeah. I think that walking by myself and still got the blues is a fantastic kind of little 2-song segment. That you put up against anything you like. Those 2 songs, show Gary Moore at his very best. Great playing. And the blues bit and the more of the sort of rock thing. I think that that's you get to those 2 tracks and you think home run. Kind of thing. Well, that's what I feel about them. You just, if you've got those 2 tracks on an album, you're doing really well, and it's going to be a great record.
And then we lost Gary Moore at 58 to a heart attack, but how good to have, an album that was truly, purely exactly what he wanted to do, be very successful. So that's an artist's dream. So at least, he may have died young, but he got to put an album out that he loved and continue that journey as a bluesman then and be recognised and obviously admired by so many as a blues artist. So well done, Gary. And personally, from my point of view, thank you, Gary, for the music. It's, still got the blues. It was his song. He wrote that, and maybe without someone like Gary Moore, there might not be Brad Cook sitting here or Andrew or Simon. You know what I mean? Like that's for me. That's how important Gary Moore is to me. That I don't think, I'd be half the artist I am today. Not that I'm anywhere near the stature of Gary Moore, but as an artist, as a guitarist that's forever searching to try and get to that level. Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, I think that for me, this album is important because it clearly, comes at the beginning of the 90s and is part of that kick-starting blues rock again. People playing blues rock with it, as we said earlier, with Clapton, him. It started to go. You know what? We can play the blues. Actually, it's legitimate to go and play the blues. And I think that around that time, you've got Joe Bonamassa, you've got Jeff Healey, all those guys. You've got a bit of a resurgence of blues going on. That's not kind of under the radar from grunge that I think is interesting, and I think that that clearly he's in the vanguard of that, Gary. And this album is one of the things that pushes that along. Great Vanzini, hello, how you doing? It's yes, guys, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a safe one as well. If you're living in anything like the UK is, it's well, we're going round and round in ever decreasing circles, seemingly. So stay safe and well, guys.
Hey, Great Vanzini. Yeah. Well, before I hand it on to you guys, I just want to say thank you very much for anybody who might be watching the replay, who's got to the end of this 2-hour show. My co-hosts and I enjoy presenting them for you, and we enjoy all the thumbs ups and even a couple of the thumbs downs we get, but as the channel grows, we are aware that that's part and parcel of a presence on social media. So the kind comments and the supportive comments we get are appreciated. And Brad made a comment a couple of other shows ago that we do talk about it. Simon and I and Brad, we do appreciate the kind words and the and the support. It's nice. It's good. It's good to have a core group of people interested in what a guy from Hamilton, New Zealand, and a guy from the UK, and the guy from Melbourne, Australia, has to say about music. It's humbling. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we could. Go on, Brad. Keep going. Go on. Off you go.
And definitely for everyone that's watching this, share it. Help the channel grow, because I know Andrew puts a lot into this behind the scenes, and we all appreciate it, Andrew. But for you guys out there, share it on your socials. Help the channel grow. We want to try and get it to over 1,000 subscribers, which will help Andrew, fund the channel moving forward. And I think what we do is we put in our heart and soul into every show here, and we appreciate the the support. So, and that's why we put so much into the show, because we appreciate you guys. So, if you want to help us continue moving forward, that's the best thing you can do is share, like, subscribe, get your mates to do it. Anyone that you know that loves this sort of music, get them on board. Do the same thing. I know I'm doing a bit of a push, but it's an end of year push. Let's make 2021 a lot safer and, and a lot more positive, and, I know there's a lot of, I'm just going to say something here that I really, 2020 has been a really challenging year for everyone. Let's make 2021 better. Wear a mask, guys, if you like it or not. Just let's get this damn thing over and done with so we can start getting back to some normality. Please. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but Simon, you're in the UK. You guys are. Really
for me, it's very simple, isn't it? Stay away from people, wash your hands, wear a mask.
Yeah, and I mean,
it really isn't that difficult, and I don't feel that's a great impropriety on my freedoms and my, I agree with you entirely. That's the way we get rid of it, by controlling ourselves a bit.
I want to get political because some people don't like the idea of it or whatever, but there's short-term pain, long-term gain. That's how I see it, and I put that in every aspect of my life. It's affected everyone, so let's stay positive, guys, and get through this. So,
well, one positive already. My 85-year-old mum has had the vaccine, part 1 of the vaccine. She has the second part on January the 8th. I'm looking forward to being able to see her again, because I've not seen her for a few months, because I have teenage daughters who go out. and
everyone's. I just watched a program last night with people saying, they haven't been able to see their family all year, and now the COVID breaks here in Sydney and a couple in Melbourne, like from international travellers coming.
Yeah.
So everyone's petrified again, and like just personally.
You've just been through it, haven't you, in Melbourne? You've just been through months of it.
Well, from a selfish point of view, I don't want to be locked down for months and months and months ever again. So
no.
Let's get off the negative stuff. It's heavy now. Like, share on your socials, guys. Everyone that's watching this on Facebook, no doubt, share the channel on your Facebook page. Get people involved. Anyone that likes blues rock, blues guitar, and if you guys appreciate what we're talking about, share it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Simon?
I'd like to say thanks to the community. Great Vanzini, Arvin, the guys who've been, Ellen, the guys who come every week and contribute so much to what we do. And we look on this as a community show, the guys, and hopefully we have pointed you in a direction of some albums you may not have listened to, and artists you may not have particularly picked up on. And hopefully the people who watch, some of the people who watch this, are looking at it for the first time and going, maybe we should check these songs out and things. So I'd like to thank Andrew for the opportunity to do this, because it's I get up early, but I love it. It's good fun, and that's the first thing that it should be. It should be good fun. We have a laugh, but we take it seriously. We don't pretend to know everything, and but hopefully we can introduce people to good music, good things, and may it continue into 21.
Yeah, as much as you're a slave, Andrew, we appreciate the show.
I appreciate my co-hosts jumping on too, because it's the one thing that it does take, isn't it? And it takes time. It takes time out of a busy life, and time out of things that maybe you should be doing other things with. It's a balancing act, and I appreciate it. I enjoy it too. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys, my co-hosts. So Simon and I will definitely be on the same time next week. If all goes well, we'll have Carl with us and Brad. I'll flick you the link if you want to jump on. So we're going to be going through Sticky Fingers, the classic Rolling Stones album. If you guys haven't heard that for a long time, check it out, do your homework, and join Simon and I. We'll be here next week, and hopefully we might have a couple of other guys as well, Brad and Carl. But stay safe, everyone.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yeah, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. We'll see you next Sunday with a bit of luck. Take care, guys. Bye.